What's up, guys? Coach Bourne here. I'm going to talk tonight about the pack line defense, the man-to-man pack line defense. I'm currently at Boswell High School. Have ran the pack line defense now for 11, going on 12 years. At Boswell, we'll call it our 50 defense. We've called it 50 defense for quite some time. You can call it whatever you want. But before I get into the pack line defense, the philosophy of the pack line defense, drills that we run in the pack line defense to build up the whole 50 defensive package, I want to talk a little bit about the overarching theme and reasons we do and do not do certain things in combination with pack line. First of all, pressing. We do not press. We do not extend our defense out past the 20-21 foot arc simply because the more you extend your defense, it's pretty much common sense. The more holes in your paint that you create for penetration, which is ultimately going to end up in layups, fouls, or uncontested threes on kicks. So we do not press. The only time we'll press is if I look at an opponent and I believe that we outman them in 3 of the 5 positions. So in a scout report, if I'm looking at an opponent and I believe that 3 of our players or more are better than 3 of their players, then we will definitely, pick up and extend our defense out half court, full court, 3/4 court, whatever. But for the most part, we do not press. We will pick up at the arc, and our defense will look absolutely enormous. You will not see any paint if you're on offense. That's the goal of pack line. And so that's kind of the rule on pressing. A lot of people ask that, so you guys don't ever press, and the answer to that is pretty much no. Now, we'll situational press some, but it's not built in. You can't run pack line and press the whole game. You just can't. And so there's a trade-off there, and I'm going to stick with the percentages and stick to pack line. It's been very successful. Has got me personally to Austin, now San Antonio, the state Final Four 3 times, 2010, 2011, and 2012, and won 2 of those 3, got some gold medals in there, a couple of them, had some great players to go along with that, but also ran it at Duncanville High School the 2 years that I was there, and then at College Station High School when I was there, and then the times that we went to state back in 2010, that was at Flower Mound Marcus High School. Danny Henderson introduced me and kind of sold me on pack line, and from that I've just built upon things he's taught me and then added my own twists and turns and drills in there to make it even more successful. So let's talk about the pack line a little bit. Like I told you, we call it 50 defense. The philosophy of it really comes down to one thing, but I'll get to the philosophy in just a second before I get to the philosophy of the pack line. It is the reason why we run pack line. This is the number one reason why you would integrate pack line into your system, and it's the reason that we run it. Pack line is built to beat the best teams, and that's just the bottom line of pack line. It is not built to beat the last place team in your district. It's built to beat the best, and that's who we want to beat, and that's the games that we want to be in, and so that's why we run pack lines. There's always the question, I'm a believer in the why, and the why is I want to beat the best teams. Pack line absolutely beats the best teams, and so when I say it's not built for the last place team in the district, that could be the team that passes it 90 times because they want to shorten the game because they're not very good, and for that you're just going to have to come up with some twists and turns in pack line, and that's where your pressing, your situational pressing comes in, and you're looking at your opponent and deciding, are we better than them at 3 or 4 or 5 of the positions, and so you can come up with your own plan with that. But we don't practice and we don't put in a defense to beat the last place team in our district. We put in something to get to the regional tournament, quite frankly, and that's what pack line does for us. So here's the philosophy. The philosophy of pack line is that it is built on percentages, not pressure, and that's the key sentence. Pack line is built on percentages, not pressure, and that's why we don't press. And so here's what we mean by percentages. When you look at a team that you're playing, let's just say they are a great shooting high school 3-point shooting team. And what would that percentage be in high school? A great 3-point shooting high school team, what would that percentage be? You know it, I know it. Someone that's shooting 40% or more in high school, that is a great shooting high school 3-point shooting team. Heck, 30 to 40% is a good 3-point shooting team on the average. So, but I'll look at the great, since that's what pack line's built for, is beating the great. If they're shooting 40% and they're a great shooting 3-point team, that means 60% of the shots that they're taking from the arc are not going in. I like my odds there. If I'm going to Vegas, those are pretty good odds. And so our belief is if we can keep them outside the paint, we actually call it the box, which is the NBA arc, but in high school it would be the paint. And Our box would be the NBA paint, which is bigger than the high school paint. It is built on limiting teams to three-point shots and contested three-point shots. No one gets in our paint. Nobody. That is an absolute statement, and I'll talk about absolutes in a minute. I'll just talk about it now. We do not speak in subjective tone. We speak in very objective tone. I call it speaking in absolutes, meaning we are going to beat fill in the blank. We will not let anybody in our paint. We speak in absolute sentences, and it is an absolute fact when people that know me as a coach know that I'm adamant that no one gets in the paint at the school that I'm coaching at, and that's at Boswell right now. And so 50 defense, pack line defense is absolutely built on limiting teams to low percentage shots, and anything in the paint is going to be considered a high percentage shot because it's going to end up in a layup more than likely, a foul, which is going to lead to a free throw, which is an uncontested shot, or a drive and kick, which is going to lead to an uncontested three. Those are three things that are not allowed in our defense and our pack line. And so when we think about putting all this together, we think about defending at the arc and inside the arc, and that is it. We don't get up into not passing lanes. If it's a scout report and you're playing the last place team in the district, then you may need to add some twists in there, obviously some scout report options. But against the best, it is not that way. And so, again, the philosophy of pack line is percentages, not pressure. And so I'll give you another percentage. We do not close out. Teams, a lot of teams practice the close out on skip passes and passing and clicking the ball around the wing, and you close out on a shooter. I've been taught that my whole life. I taught it. I coached it for, 15 years of my life. But in the past 11 years, we have not practiced one, running up to a shooter, chopping down on your feet, throwing your hands up, and closing out. We do not do that. We do what we call sell out. We sell out to shot contesting. And so by that, I mean we completely dive. We throw our bodies in the air. We pick a shoulder so we don't run into them, and we throw our hands up. And our definition of a shot contest under the pack line system, my definition of a shot contest is hands above the eyes. And so when we grade film, the one thing I'm looking for on every person that shoots the ball on us is, did we have a defender not in his face? You hear that a lot. That does nothing. Putting your hand in someone's face does absolutely nothing. Good shooters don't see that. It is getting your hand above their eyes. And so that's how they're graded on shot contests. And to do that, you have to sell out, which is a full-out sprint, diving sometimes in midair to get there, picking a shoulder so that you don't run into them, and throwing your hands up above their eyes. And so that is what we call a sellout. We do not practice closeouts. So our shot contests are sellouts, which is going to lead you to ask the question, okay, well, any good shooter is going to shot fake you, get you in the air, and drive by you. And that is exactly what pack line is built for. Again, I tell you, the philosophy of pack line is percentages, not pressure. So the second, here's some statistics, some data for you. The second that the shooter puts the ball on the floor, percentages have shown, because again, we're built on percentages, that that shot's going in 20% less of the time. So you just took, let's say he's a great three-point shooter, a Phil Forte type shooter, a Steph Curry type shooter, and he's shooting 45% at the arc, and you're sprinting all out at him, throwing your hands above the eyes. He doesn't shoot it, he drives by you. Statistics show that in high school, that drops about 15 to 20%, give or take some. So now you're taking a 40% shooter who's putting the ball on the floor, 1 to 2 dribbles, and now he's going to do a pull-up jumper, which now says statistically he's going to shoot that about 20 to 25%. I like my odds there. You're going to win a whole lot of games if you're forcing opponents to shoot 20 to 25% shots. So, and then you could be asking, well, who's to stop him? Which we'll get to in a minute. He doesn't get in our paint. The shooter does not get in our paint. So we'll get to that in a minute. But that's just another example built on sellout shot contests, making people put the ball on the floor and decreasing their percentages on their shot, which plays in our favor. And so that's another example of the philosophy of pack line, which is percentages, not pressure. Let me tell you what we call a defensive stop at Boswell. Depending on where you're at, we've renamed this over the years. But I'm at Boswell now, so we call it a Bos stop. And here are our guys that play for me know that our defense is very simple. It comes down to doing one thing, getting a Bos stop. And a Bos stop is simply three things. If we can do these three things, you're going to win a whole lot of ball games. And a Bos stop is simply no uncontested shots, no layups, and no offensive rebounds. It's those three things. No uncontested shots, no layups. Really, it's no anything in the paint for us, and no offensive rebounds. If you can do those three things, That's what we call a boss stop. You're going to win a whole lot of ball games. And so our whole definition of defense comes down to 3 bullet points, which we call a boss stop. And so we grade that every game. I grade the games, and we call it a Gold Star grading system. I can share that with you if you ever need it. But the whole Gold Star system is, I would say it's about 20 items that the players are each graded on. And out of the 20 items, there's a negative side and a positive side. So if, let's say one of the 20 items is taking a charge, that would be a positive. The negative side would be not taking a charge. So unbelievable headhunt. We don't call blocking out. We call blocking out headhunting. So let's say unbelievable headhunt. The negative would be no headhunt. So if we catch a player doing an unbelievable headhunt, he gets points for that. Or if we catch a player on film not headhunting at all, he gets deducted points from that. We add those all up, the plus and the minus, we get a grade, and that's what we call our Gold Star system. And so whoever has the highest points, if it's a bad game, if you played a bad game overall, your winner may have 3 points. Your worst loser may have negative 30. I don't think I've ever had anybody. I think Marcus Smart, when I was at Flower Mound Marcus, I believe he scored, I think a 33 one time. But for every game, you're going to have a Gold Star champion, and your Gold Star champion is your highest point getter based on the film grade. And just so you know, those 20 things on the Gold Star system, 15 out of 20 are all effort type stuff, diving on loose balls, unbelievable enthusiasm off the bench, blocking out, which we call headhunting, unbelievable shot contest, unbelievable first bounce help, things like that. So it's a really cool system. It holds kids accountable. They get to go back and grade themselves on Gold Star. They can go back and look at the points that I gave them and, go to huddle and see if the point total is correct, if I did the positive side and the negative side correctly. So it's a great accountability system, holding players accountable, and it also will get them on huddle because they're definitely going to check their score to see if they're in that top 5, especially if you're using that for your starter system. So what I'd like to do now is kind of go through the drills that we do to implement the pack line defense. And really there's 4 drills, or the fundamental drills that we do every single day in a practice, in our defensive segment in practice, that reinforces and implements and drives home the pack line philosophy and the keeping people out of your paint, shot contesting, and the things that win ball games. And the 4 drills are, and I'll start with the most important one. The first one is protect the paint drill. Protect the paint drill is a 3-on-3 drill. It's limited to 5 passes, and the coaches will count out the passes. There is a live dribble. There's no screening. It's just stationary unless you have the ball, and if you have the ball, you can drive and kick or drive and attempt to score. There's a scoring system involved there, but it's a 3-on-3 game that really emphasizes 2 main important things, and that is, number 1, your first step. The first step is very important in our defense. We actually start all of our practice with a very quick first step drill, but we believe that on the ball defense comes down to the first defensive step. If you can have an explosive first step or a first defensive step, you're going to stop a whole lot of penetration in your paint, because the offensive player has been taught and has gone through training his whole life about having an explosive first step on offense. So we really emphasize the push step. It really goes all the way back to our weight room training and the emphasis on the weight room. We really believe that you can overcome a lot of your athletic deficiencies by being strong. And by strong, I mean weight room strong. And so we really spend a whole lot of time on our core and our legs, and then it transforms itself over into that first step defense that we say. So in protect the paint drill, the first step is critical. And another thing that's emphasized in the protect the paint drill is first bounce help. First bounce help is absolutely critical in our pack line defense. It is exactly what it says it is. We divide our court in half. When the ball is on a side, a lot of coaches call the back side the help side. We actually call it China. So when the ball is on one side, we have 5 players literally across the midline on the ball side. And if you're not, then we call it being in China. Some other coaches would call it being not in help side, or maybe they're over on back side. We call it China because China's all the way on the other half of the world. You don't want to be over there. You want to be where we're at right now. And so where we're at is the ball. We want to all be ball sides. So when the ball is on one side of the floor, we are all the way across midline. Our first practice, we'll have tape down, and really the whole first 2 weeks of practice, we'll have tape right down the midline of the floor, rim to rim. And when the ball is on a side, we better have 5 Boswell players all the way across that midline so that the ball handler sees a paint full of Pioneers. That's our mascot. So that's a really big deal. And if you're selling out on shot contesting, you're going to have some guys shot faking and go to the rim, and that's where our first bounce help comes in. And our first bounce help principle is that the first help defender has to pick up the ball handler before he gets into our paint. It's really before he gets in our box. Our box is, again, the NBA arc. So he has to meet him outside the box. If he gets inside the box, we believe there's not much we can do there. We do have a 911 system in place that if for some horrible reason the ball does get in to the paint, we have a 911 system, but I'll kind of go over that when we get to our shell package. But anyway, that's our protect the paint drill. We do it every day. It is the most important drill by far that we do for Packline. The second most important drill that we do, and we do it every day, is our shell package. And every coach in America does a shell package defensive drill. Ours has 8 or 9 segments in the shell package. We usually do it 4-on-4. We'll implement a whole lot of what we call change in there, where the coach, I'll yell change, and the offense will go to defense, the defense will go to offense, and you have to pick a new guy to guard every time. It's just a lot of switching and thinking going on. But anyway, our 4-on-4 shell package comes down to jump to the ball, which everybody does. Our pointers are always up, and we always call our man's name out all the time. But it starts with jump to the ball, then it goes deny the cut, then it goes deny the flash from the backside. Then we work on down screens, then we work on back screens, then we work on ball screens, and depending on the week, we'll work on soft hedging, hard hedging, 1 under, 2 under jams, and maybe even some icing the ball screen when the ball's on a wing especially. And then we'll go into our 911 series, where we'll just put a manager in the basket, we'll throw the ball down to the manager, and every 5 players on our Boswell team will converge on the basketball in a 911 situation. So if the ball does happen to get in our paint, that's an emergency situation, and every player converges to the rim and to the ball. And then we're just hoping, that we can stop anything inside the paint. And so that's our 911 series. We do work some what we call dead action, where I'll yell dead, and the offensive player has to pound the ball, pick it up, and then every player on defense has to yell dead, and that is the one time that we will get up into passing lanes, obviously, because the ball is dead. And that kind of rounds out our shell package. We do have a circle the wagons option in there, where the 4 defenders will circle the nail. We call that circling the wagons, and every time they circle, the offensive guys stay stationary, but the defense has to call their man's name out every time they're circling, and it's a new player every time they're circling. And then I'll just hand the ball to somebody, and that person will drive hard, and whoever's on the ball defender is probably about to get smoked. So the next help defender better meet him outside the box, and we call that first bounce help. So we a lot of times will end shell package with circle the wagons. But anyway, that's the second most important pack line drill that we do. The third most important one we do is called blue-white drill. Depending on what school you coach at, you just name it after your school colors. And we call it blue-white because your practice jerseys are blue on one side and white on the other. They are for us, at least. And so what we'll actually do, even though it's really not blue-white, it's really shirts and skins. What you'll have to do is you'll split your team in half. So you'll have 8 or 9 offensive players, 8 or 9 skins and 8 or 9 shirts. And the team that starts on offense, the team that ends up on offense is the winner. It's like an 8-minute drill. When the clock hits 0, if you're on offense, you win. If you're on defense, you lose, and there's a consequence for losing. And so that drill is a 3-on-3 drill, and it's a pass and screen away drill. There's no ball screens allowed, there's no lobs allowed, and there's no post-ups allowed in our blue-white drill. It's simply pass the ball and go screen away. And so that drill is great for jumping to the ball, getting across midline, getting out of China, and then by jumping to the ball, you're opening up a window that your teammate can get through if you're guarding the screener. We want a window big enough for a dump truck to be able to drive through it. And so if your man passed the ball, you better be jumping to the ball hard, creating a window big enough for a dump truck to drive through. And then if you're guarding the cutter, the guy that's using the screen, you're going to use that window to get through, like every coach in America teaches. But our big deal on that drill, 2 big things. The first one is moving when your man moves. That is a huge concept that they'll learn in blue-white drill. Move when your man moves. That means you always got to have your pointers up, and you always got to have your head on a swivel. And you better not be screen bait. That goes into our triangle technology, or our triangle terminology, where If you're guarding off the ball, you're involved in what's called a defensive triangle, and your triangle had better be flat. I don't have a lot of time to explain that. I can email you that, but the triangle is formed by the basketball, you, and the person that you're guarding, and that triangle better be a very flat triangle. If it's a really big triangle, you're about to be what we call screen bait. And so you better not be in a big triangle, meaning you better move when your man moves. And so as he's cutting off the screen, you're going to get through that window when he moves. Instantaneous reaction. And then the second concept in blue-white drill is if you move when your man moves, you're going to be able to do the second concept, which is being under his chin on the catch. So the cutter coming off the screen is obviously about to probably receive a pass, and you better be right there under his chin on the catch so that you can be in a first step position or a shot contest position. And so those are the two key concepts that we really emphasize in our blue-white drill. The last drill that we do every single day in our pack line defensive series is post ambush. We do that actually out of 5-on-5. We do score it. We score everything that we do. Every drill that we do has a winner and a loser. The only drill that we don't have a winner and loser is shell package. Every other drill we do defensively has a winner and it has a loser. But our post ambush drill really teaches and re-emphasizes how we're going to ambush. And without having the time to explain that to you, our high help is our ambusher. And so whoever's the backside help or the high help guy, the high player, usually a guard, but not always, the most high guard player on the help side, what we call high help, he's the ambusher, and he always designates himself as the ambusher by constantly saying, me, 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 over and over again, because as offenses move, the me changes, because as the offensive players move, the high help is a new player every 10 seconds. And so whoever's guarding the high help, if you're the high help player, whoever's guarding that backside high offensive player, you're the high help, and you always are yelling, me, 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 telling your team, I got the ambush, I got the ambush, I got the ambush. And so if the ball enters the post, as the ball's in midair, you're going to go down there and foul with your chest. You're going to make an X with your legs on the with your teammate, the post defender. We make an X with our legs so we can't get split. We foul with our chest. And then whoever is the high ball side defender, he actually has to drop now to the nail, and he has to guard two players while that ambush is taking place. So we ambush every single time when the ball goes in the post unless it's a scout report. And so that's our last most important drill in pack line. Some other drills that we do, maybe every other day, but we definitely hit them once a week. One of my favorites that we do is get back drill. It is a very, very tough drill. It's a disadvantage drill. It's a 3-on-3 drill. There's a coach on each end determining when to yell, get back, get back, get back to the defense. It's really, you're yelling it to the offense because they're the ones that are transitioning back into defense. Then you have a coach at half court making sure that the offense doesn't leave too early. It's a tough drill, man. It puts the offense way ahead of the defense in transition, and the defense has to do everything that they can to get back into the paint and into a 9-1-1 and then into an umbrella. We do use the term umbrella quite a bit. In our transition defense, our players know that we cover basket first, ball second. And so they'll constantly be telling me basketball, 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 saying that we cover the basket first, the ball second. And so in our defensive transition, every player is sprinting to the rim. That's the rule. Nowhere else. And then as they're sprinting, they're communicating early and often, about who's got the basket, who's got the ball, and then the other three players have to form an umbrella, which looks almost like the arc, the three-point arc, to match up, calling your man's name out. And so we do that in our get-back drill. We also reinforce that. We actually do 11-man break every day as well. That can be an offensive drill too, but pretty much every coach runs some form of an 11-man break drill. That's our 3-on-2 plus 1 drill, where the offense is going against the defense 3-on-2, and then there's a late runner coming in for defense. But we do that in our defensive segment. We actually start our whole defensive segment out with that. It's a high-energy drill. It gets you going. There's a lot of enthusiasm involved with that drill. There's a winner and a loser. We teach that as our basket and our ball transition defense drill. So that really emphasizes basket first, ball second when it's 3-on-2, and then the person coming in, there's this constant early and often communication. And so that's a great drill, and that's also a great drill for head hunting. We really emphasize head hunting. If one person doesn't head hunt, they have a punishment on the spot, and we play it from right there. So some other drills that we do, like I told you a while ago, we do a lot of 4-on-4 change stuff where the coach yells change. We can do that in the half court. We also do that in the full court where we're playing half court and the coach will yell change, and then the offense has to sprint back full court into defense. The defense picks the ball up and goes. Our change stuff is really good for transition type stuff and communication as well. We do a drill called off the wall. That's a 9-1-1 drill, quite frankly, because there's 4 offensive players and there's 4 guys literally sitting on the wall. And as soon as I throw the ball in, they've got to sprint in off the wall, communication, stop the ball before it gets to the paint, because they lose if they do that. Very hard drill, but it's a 9-1-1 drill that we do. And then probably one of the two toughest drills that we do are man maker. Man maker is impossible. Usually you play that game to 1 or 2. It's too critical. I mean, it's too complicated for me to explain that to you now, but it's impossible, which is what we want. We want our players to have to try to win the impossible. And then something that we'll do once every week or every other week and it's as tiring, this is probably the toughest. This will get your players, they'll hate you as a coach, and they'll hate their opponent, which is great. That's exactly what we try to build is just hatred to lose on impossible situation. And it's a defensive scrimmage, 5-on-5. But the rules make it extremely tough. You do not get to go to offense unless you get a boss stop. So if there's any uncontested shot, any paint touch, any layup, or any offensive board, they lose. And so the offense just keeps the ball. And the scrimmage usually is 20 minutes long. And, I've seen teams get up 30-0. The offense just keeps the ball because the defense, they can't get it done. And, man, that's where you really, really have to emphasize. That drill is big on do cuddles. And so we'll make our guys do cuddle quite a bit. And I'll also tell them that I've seen many teams be down 30-0 and come back and win it 33-30. Because as soon as they can get the ball, now you put the other side in a disadvantage. Now they have to get a boss stop. So it's a great competitive drill, man. It is tough. I've seen some fights break out in that one, and they do not like you because they want you to be a referee, and I won't referee it. So, we do referee it a little bit. We don't call the whistle much. We also do 4-on-4, 3-on-3 most stops drill. And so in a time period, whichever team gets the most stops, and we'll just say, boss stop, that's one. In an 8-minute game, who gets the most stops? So that's usually low scoring. The winners usually win 2-1, 1-0, things like that. But those are the drills that build our pack line. And I'm a huge believer in it. I've run multiple defenses with Jody Bass. I ran the matchup zone. I've run with coaches that press the whole game. This is my 26th year. I am a huge believer in high school, especially running the pack line defense. It's man-to-man. It is tough. It's rule-oriented. You're totally accountable to the rules. You can't screw it up unless you just aren't playing hard or you aren't locked in. And so it really makes players buy into this thing. And that's kind of in a nutshell. I'll end it with this. As a defensive coach and I go into a system, I always try to find one guy that's your lockdown defender. And so when I walk into a program, we got a team, as you build your team through off season and bleeding up to October, November, we want to identify one player that will be your lead dog. We call him the lockdown defender. We put him on their best player, and he's the guy that just loves to get dirty and win. And what I have found out is if you can find that guy, and not every team has one, but if you can find that guy, the rest of your guys will follow. Because if you get one mean, bad dog, all of a sudden the other dogs get mean and bad too, because it's survival of the fittest, and they want to win, and it becomes just super contagious. And so I've always kind of developed, not always, I've developed over the years and can I find one guy on my team that he's good enough, he has to be good enough, athletic enough, mean enough, strong enough, strength is everything, and quick enough to guard their best player. First step, shot contest, head hunting, which you call blocking out, just down and dirty. Chris Beard always says at Texas Tech, he doesn't want show dogs, he wants junkyard dogs. I want a junkyard dog that is going to push the limits, see what he can get away with, and do everything he can to keep that guy out of the paint. And your other guys will fall in too, and you'll win some games. You have a chance to win almost all of them. I appreciate your time. That's a 15-minute segment of our pack line, our 50 defense. If you want more detailed information, feel free to hit me up. I share my stuff all the time. I've got almost everything on YouTube, everything. And so depending on who you are, I don't share it with our opponents or anyone that I think might be our opponent, but if I sincerely believe that you are dedicated to putting this in, I'll share it with you. Most coaches are creatures of habit and they won't put it in. But if you hound me enough, and I believe, man, this person really wants to institute and instill Packline in their system, I have no problem sharing it with you. But I appreciate your time. You guys have a great day.